I'm so glad to be here. The steak and the scissors.
Steak and scissors? Oh, you mean the wizard CZ and never wrong Nick Bull.
You have never hunted something like this. Don't hunt what you can't kill, fella.
So it's that kind of wrestling podcast.
I want to be the guy throwing snakes at people.
Then you've found the right place. The podcast by the fan, for the fan. The card subject to change.
The surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, Mantar.
Here now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the Wizard CZ and never wrong Nick Bull.
And welcome back to another exciting episode of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan, for the fan. We're so happy that you're here to join us. So happy you found our little corner of the world. We'll talk wrestling here for the next hour or so. And we got a good one here today. But before we get to that, we got to get this the introductory stuff out of the way. I am your host, Never Wrong Nick Bull. So thank you so much for joining us. We're glad you're here. Glad to be a part of the Card Subject to Change podcast. Of course, we are coming to you live from the Atomic Sports Cards and Collectibles Studios. And we are powered by Lopez Pizza. Pizza by the slice or by the pie, downtown Davenport. I'm Never Wrong Nick Bull, so glad that you're here. We are here to talk wrestling. Of course, I can't talk wrestling by myself. I got to have my tag team partner here with me. He is a shoot wizard. He is the one. He is the only. He is the Wizard CZ. Wizard, how you doing, bud?
I am feeling good. We're a little early today, but it's not a bad thing. We're excited. I'm excited for our guest. I'm excited to talk about everything. I think this guest could fill 3 shows and we'd still have plenty to talk about. I'm just
we were just talking before the show went on, and it's like, wow, this could go a lot of different ways. It's great when you have a guest on that's got a lot of experience and a lot of stories to tell, and looking forward to picking this gentleman's brain here in a few minutes.
Yeah. I'm really excited. We'll bring him in. He is the promoter of SICW All Star Wrestling out of the St. Louis area. Please welcome with us Mr. Herb Simmons. Herb, how you feeling today, my friend?
Oh, great, man. I really want to thank you guys for having me on your program. 4 years of success in a podcast is almost unheard of, and you guys are knocking it out of the ballpark. So I'm really honored to be a part of it today.
We are honored to have you and appreciate the kind words.
Herb, we're glad to have you here. Wanted to get you here for quite some time, but glad you're here now. We got a big event to talk about coming up, but you're a first-time guest in the studio, so I got to ask the same question I asked all the first-time guests. Why pro wrestling? What was it for you that drew you in and made you a fan of this wonderful thing we love to talk about?
Well, you said the operative word there, fan. Grew up, my siblings weren't into the business like I was growing up, but my mother was. And she was my tag team partner. And back in the day, we grew up in the housing projects in East St. Louis, Illinois, had a little black and white television with the rabbit ears on it that you had them tune, make sure you had them up all the way. And there was a program out of St. Louis called Wrestling at the Chase. That started on television in 1959 and, had the likes of Cowboy Bob Ellis, Johnny Valentine, Luthez, Farmer Marlin, Dick the Bruiser. And I was hooked. It didn't take me one show. The first time I saw it, it was it. And at a young age and then just, back then there was a limited things on television. And I always tell people you had wrestling, roller derby, and the Three Stooges, and I grew up on all 3 of them.
That's awesome. Herb, I always follow that up here. What was it? So you've been a fan all your life. What was it about wrestling what was that moment that said, I have to be a part of this. I have to do this somehow in my life?
Yeah, well, I think the more you watch these athletes, because that's what they are. They get in there and they do stuff that really is just unbelievable. Everything from the holds to the reversals and just flying around that squared circle. And of course, the brawling I'm always always will be until the day I leave this great earth, old school wrestling fan. And I mean, my mom and I would watch it when it came on television on a Wednesday night, and then would get rebroadcast over the weekend, and then they started broadcasting it on Saturday night, and then Sunday morning they'd rebroadcast it. And I'd watch both. I mean, I was afraid I might miss something. And of course, at a younger age, you didn't realize until you got older. You thought, wait a minute, I saw that last night, you know? So that's how intrigued I got into it. And then, of course, later on in life, when I met my dear friend who was actually the protege of Sam Muchnick, who was the promoter for the National Wrestling Alliance off and on for 41 years. And he was from St. Louis. His office was in St. Louis. And when I got to meet Larry Matasek, and him and I shared some common bonds later on in life. And then, he went to work for Sam Muchnick when he was 16 years old. Didn't even have a driver's license at the time. His father would drive us to the office. And I got to hang out in there. And, you'd walk into the office and there'd be Gene Kaniski sitting there having a meeting with Sam, or Whipper Billy Watson, or Fritz von Erich. I mean, I was a sponge. I mean, I just soaked it all up. And that's what was so unique about Sam Muchnick. He wanted people like Larry and I to learn the business, but learn it the right way and protect it.
Now, what age were you at that point where you were in that room becoming a sponge?
I was, a teenager. Like I said, Larry started when he was 16, and I was 2-3 years younger than Larry. And like I said, I was a kid at a candy shop. I was still eating them candy, man. I tell you.
Oh, I think, yeah. When you said sitting there, you just being a sponge, just sit and listen, because that's how you'll learn.
Yeah. Well, and I think the ironic part is that Sam allowed us. And again, I'm in the office with Larry, and Sam told us you can go through all the files. Nothing leaves the office. You don't take anything with you. What you hear in this office stays within the confines or walls of this office. And we went through the files of matches and, everything. And now here in 2026, I have those files. They got handed down from Sam to Larry when he passed away. And then when Larry passed away, I got them. So I've got all the matches. If you want to know how many matches Dick DeBruiser or Johnny Valentine or whoever had, or Ric Flair had in St. Louis, they used to type them up on the 3x5 index cards that Mom and Grandma kept the recipes on, and they got them in alphabetical order. And so I'm honored to have those and preserve them.
That's a piece of wrestling history.
Yes. Herb, talking about old school wrestling, you've been in the business for quite some time. What do you think of the evolution of where wrestling is now compared to where it was when you first came into the business? Well,
and that's an opinion that everybody has, a personal opinion. I don't call what's going on today wrestling the way I know it, and that's my opinion. I'll probably offend some of your listeners out there, but I'm used to the old school. A match between a Luthez and a Pat O'Connor, or Nature Boy Buddy Rogers against Pat O'Connor at Kaminsky Park in front of one of the largest crowds ever back then in 1962, I think it was, at Kaminsky Park in Chicago. Wrestling back in the day, the psychology of it was there. And that's something I believe now, and nothing against the men and women who are out there busting their behinds, making a living at doing it now. They're doing what they have to do. But I think there's a lot more of them do it that will admit to it, that they, with the help of YouTube and platforms like that, I believe they go back and they try to research and find out why the psychology was so different back then. Of course, you had promoters back then that knew the psychology that they wanted. Nowadays, it's marketing is what it is. It's not wrestling, it's marketing.
Very true.
That's an interesting way to look at it. When you say it like that, I would say, the psychology is definitely a lost art. And I was going to ask, is that because people have shorter now, or is that just because the way that technology and the way the world is today?
Yeah, I think that's technology is really pushed us where we are today. I mean, just like what we're sitting here doing now, you know, back in the day, we never even thought about this was going to happen. You could be guys where you're at, and where I'm at, and we're talking. And, but you know, the technology has just really escalated the business. And Sam always told us that wrestling has its ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster is the way he referred to it. You know, it's a roller coaster up and down. And I don't know what you think about now, but wrestling, especially on the independent side, it's reaching the pinnacle up there. I mean, the only problem with that is once you reach that height, there's only one way you got to go, and that's down. And so everybody better enjoy it while they can. And because I've seen it happen that time a couple different times. And but I think that the business has just changed so drastically, and even the veterans and legends that are out there now will tell you the same thing. It's more of the entertainment part of it than two guys getting in there good against evil, you know.
Sure. We're talking here with Herb Simmons from SICW on the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, we're coming to you live from the Atomic Sports Cards and Collectibles Studios, and we are powered by Lil Pies Pizza. Glad to have you along for the ride for this chat here with Herb Simmons. Herb, I know what wrestling at the Chase meant to you as a kid. What did it mean to you in your later years as you went from not only just being a wrestling fan, but putting on those shows and keeping that memory alive of wrestling at the Chase?
Well, you know, wrestling at the Chase was a one of a kind. No other place that I know of and have been told about was like wrestling at the Chase. I mean, it was in the most prestigious ballroom in the Chase Park Plaza Hotel, a hotel where kings and queens and movie stars, you name it, royalty stayed there. And here you had the room that they had it in, the Coruscant room, which I was fortunate enough after all of these years, just about a year and a half ago, to put a show on in that same room and get the same goosebumps that when you talk about it. The same chandeliers are hanging in there. I mean, I swear you could stand in there and hear the spirits of Rip Hawk and Dick the Bruiser and people like that. I mean, it was such an iconic building, but there's no other place that had wrestling. You know, the ladies would dress up in their evening gowns with their pearl necklaces on. The gentlemen in their tuxedos, smoking their stogies. A quick story, a ring announcer, a good friend of ours, his brother was Joe Garagiola. He was the first play-by-play announcer for wrestling at the Chase. You may remember that name. Went on to play for the St. Louis Cardinals, and then went on to host the Today Show in New York. But he was the first play-by-play announcer, where his brother, Mickey Garagiola, kind of followed in his footsteps as a ring announcer. And Mickey always told the story when he was with us that it was funny on a Friday night, you know, you'd call the ladies up and say, hey, come on, we're going to go down to the Chase Park Plaza tonight. And the ladies would say, whoa, you know, Chase Park Plaza, that's a fine dining. And so they get there, pull up valet park, and they go inside and walk into that smoke-filled Coruscant room. And the ladies would say, wait a minute, I thought you were taking us out to dinner tonight. And they said, we are the hot dog guys over there, and our seats will be up here by the ring, you know. And they had tables with tablecloths on them. And of course, then you'd have somebody like Dick the Bruiser come out there, and afterwards his match, he'd go up and get on somebody's table and grab their cup of beer and pour it over his head. And of course, he always sent them people a couple of drinks on him afterwards. You know, he was always that kind of guy. But
sure.
So there was just no place like the Chase Park Plaza. And to this day, I mean, Billy Corgan, who owns the NWA now, came back and did, I think it was NWA 73 and 74 there. And I attended that because a couple of the legends that he brought in were friends of mine. And
Sure.
But it still didn't have the atmosphere of when we did our Sunday afternoon show. And the ironic thing about that is the gentleman, the family who owned the Chase Park Plaza was the Koppler family. And they also owned the studio, which was KPLR. And the studio was on the back side of the hotel. And the grandson was the one who had contacted me and said, hey, I've got this foundation that we help mentor youngsters, and we want to have a wrestling show. And so I got to go back into that Coruscant room and put a Sunday afternoon show on. And I brought in Jimmy Hart, the Mouth of the South, and Ron Simmons was the two guests that we brought in for him.
Herb, let me ask you, I know when you put your shows together for SICW, it has that feel to it. Talk about how the atmosphere compares at an SICW show to at Wrestling at the Chase. Talk about how those two atmospheres compare and contrast.
Well, I think the atmosphere is basically the same because I insist on that. I insist on that old school mentality with my locker room. I've got, and all promoters say they got the greatest locker room, but I can back it up. I've got guys in my locker room that was trained by the late great Harley Race, people like that, Attila Khan, superstar Steve Fender, Night Train Gary Jackson got the name Night Train from the late great Bruiser Brody. So they are my generals in my locker room. And when we're bringing in the new talent, they mentor them. But as far as, our TV that we do, our YouTube channel that we do every Sunday night, we do the same way that Sam did it. Once a month, we tape 4 1-hour shows, and then we broadcast them over the next 4 weeks and tell our storylines. And boom, all of a sudden we're at a house show. Where the fans want to come and see the payoff, and it's really it's not done that way in a lot of places anymore. But I think it's great. It's great for the talent. It gets them exposure. I've got Cowboy Bob Orton Jr. ran the Ace Wrestling Academy. We've got half a dozen of his students that have graduated and out making a name for themselves. Strictly Business, Brandon Beretta. He's already worked with the NWA. He's down at OVW. EC3's had him. Joey Vanetti, true Italian True Grit, Joey Vanetti. I got a female wrestler, Lilith Khan, 6'8", just an Amazon, and she's out making a name for herself. And these were graduates of the Ace Wrestling Academy. And so, when you have that type of mentality and say, hey, we want to keep the old school alive, and we have a lot of old school fans that are still out there. I'm the type of promoter that I stand at the door after each show that we do and thank the fans for coming, because I tell everybody it's like baking a cake. You got to have a good product, you got to have a good location, you got to have great fans and a great locker room, and if you don't have those ingredients, you're not going to bake a cake.
Talking about ingredients, let's talk a little bit about SICW FanFest 4 coming up, because that's got a lot of ingredients in it. And I want to kind of say, if you're a younger fan, great chance for you to come out and see some of those older wrestlers, talk to those older wrestlers, ask them questions, get to meet them. A wonderful time. And once again, every time I look down at my social media feed leading up to the show, Herb, there's more people coming. It's like the list just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Well, and I've got I made so many great friends in this business. These legends, the Jerry Briscoes, the JBLs, the Mick Foleys, and people like that. Haku, that give me pep talks and pointers. And of course, right now they tell me, hey, you've learned it all over 53 years. We can't tell you anymore. But I learn something every day in this business. And as I told you before we went on the air, there wasn't going to be a FanFest 4 this year. And my arms were twisted. And so we threw this together in about 2 weeks' time. And I told myself, well, okay, we're going to keep it down to 10 or 12 legends and some special guests. And I think now we're close to 60 that are. And that's kind of the running joke around the industry now. I was up in Chillicothe, Ohio, a couple of weeks ago with my good friend Bobby Fulton. And was up in Indianapolis a week or so back with the big FanFest up there. And when I see these other organizations, they do a tremendous job. And St. Louis never had one here, and Larry Matisek and I did a similar one. We had like 22 legends, but there was no wrestling show. There was no Hall of Fame. We had a lot of legends. We had, the Funks. We had the Briscoes. You name it. Colonel Buck Robley. But it was more of the seminars. Bill Apter was in there doing his seminar, but it didn't have the flavor that we've done. So when I started 4 years ago, I said, I want to have a combination, because we had started the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame many years ago, Larry Matisek and myself and my senior referee, Nick Rednauer. And I think we've got 60, what I call true legends that help build the foundation of what I continue to build on, starting with Sam Muchnick and Larry Matisek and Joe Garagiola and Johnny Valentine and Lou Thez, and that list goes on and on and on. No limousine drivers, of course, I always joke too, and they used to say, well, Vince has got movie stars in his Hall of Fame. Well, last I checked, Terry Funk is a movie star. He was in the movie Roadhouse.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I take credit to having Terry Funk in there as my movie star guy. God rest his soul. What a great friend. But, and this year it's no different. We got the class of 2026 going in, but I wanted to make a place where people could come and make it an affordable for them, and they can come and have a good time and enjoy it, and leave there feeling like, hey, this is what mom and dad and grandma and grandpa told me about. This is what they grew up on. And that's why if you follow my posts, I stay very active on social media. I always refer to old school wrestling. They tell me I'm the longest running promoter in the country at 53 years since Vince got out of it. If he's out of it, who knows about that. But I, and that doesn't really mean a lot. I mean, I do it because one, I'm a fan. I mean, it's in my blood, and I don't know. I keep telling everybody I don't know how much longer I can do it, but I got a son that one of my sons has really shown interest in and picking up. And he was out in Vegas with me at the Cauliflower Alley Club, which I'm a member of that, lifetime member, and their ambassador for that organization. And I got awarded the Promoter of the Year award there last year. And at the end of my acceptance speech, I had him come up on stage, and I asked all of the legends that were there that I've had the opportunity and honor to work with, say, hey, the only thing I ask is that you give my son the same consideration you gave me, but also when he messes up, kick him in his rear. But again, it's just so to give everybody a weekend where they can come in and let their hair down, and then wrap it up with the Bruiser Brody Memorial Battle Royal, and to have Barbara Goodish, the widow of my late great friend, be there to present the beautiful trophy to the winner is always something special.
Speaking of, the Bruiser Brody Memorial Battle Royal and the whole FanFest weekend, Nick and I are very much tuned in to what we can expect when we go down there. Tell those who are not as plugged into what's happening at FanFest, or who are just thinking about maybe coming down, what can they expect that weekend? Walk us through what that weekend looks like.
Well, I first of all, I think what they can look for is, we're at the Radisson Hotel and Conference Center in Fairview Heights, Illinois. It's on the Illinois side. The first 3 FanFest was in Missouri, which was okay, but I'm from Illinois. I'm the mayor of my little hometown. I've been the mayor of my hometown for right about 50 years. And so Fairview Heights, Illinois is a beautiful town. They have bought into this FanFest. They help and sponsor it through their tourism board that they have. The businesses are on board. So I think what they're going to find if they come in town, I mean, we've already got 2 different countries. We've got fans coming from in about 38 states. The hotel is sold out. But I think that what the fans can expect that Friday night, Mick Foley, his one-man show will start about 6 o'clock that evening. the boys who are coming in town and the ladies coming in town early that afternoon, they'll be set up if they want to. We encourage them to, and a lot of them will. Teddy Long is there. He's actually him and I reached an agreement. He's actually my general manager for the wrestling show, putting the matches together. Because everybody knows he knows how to make matches, especially tag matches, So,
Absolutely.
Him and his co-host, Mac Davis, great help, great supporters, really helped me promote this thing. But that Friday night, Mick Foley will be there with his one-man show. And then immediately after that, those who have purchased a private VIP ticket will get to have one-on-one with Mick, get their photos, get their autographs. And then they can socialize around. There's a little bar area in the hotel, and that's usually where everybody ends up at on that Friday night at all the hotels that we've been at so far. And then Saturday, the event will start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the doors will open. And I think right now we've got, as of last week, 55 total tables that will be set up in the hallways and in the main ballroom. And what we do is people who have purchased tickets in advance, and that's what we encourage them to do. It speeds up the process. When they show up at the reception table, they'll have a packet with their armbands in it and a map of where all the tables are. And if they come in to see maybe certain people, you don't have to walk around. If you want, you can. We encourage that. But if you want to come and see a certain legend, they'll have a map with that table number on it. It kind of speeds up the process that way. But they'll be able to get in. And then, like I said, we've got, I think the last I counted is about 22 vendors tables that will be set up in the hallway. A couple of podcast people will be there broadcasting live. The St. Louis Wrestling Portable Hall of Fame will be on display. A lot of people love to get their photos taken in front of that with all the plaques and everything. And we'll have a television playing with the old Wrestling at the Chase videos. So it's really cool. But then, you go into the ball, those who have the right color armband will be permitted into the ballroom, and they can go in there and spend all day if they want. The wrestling ring will be set up already, and some of the chairs for the show that night, but depending on the crowd, we'll either take some down or put some more up if we have to. But, throughout the day, like I said, the list of legends and special guests that we got coming in, I don't think anybody's going to be lack for things to do. They never have been. And then that 10 o'clock, it'll run until about 5 o'clock. And then those who stay for the Hall of Fame, we'll do the Hall of Fame induction, which will start roughly around 5 o'clock. This is wrestling. The only person I ever know started on time was Sam Muchnick, and every card at the Kiel Auditorium started at 8:30, and it better not be 8:31 or somebody was in trouble. But in this era, I haven't been able to get that down right. But so God forgive me, Sam. But then about 5 o'clock, we'll go into the Hall of Fame. This year, Andre the Giant, we're inducting him into the Hall of Fame, the class of 2026. We got our fingers crossed. His daughter, Robin, may be able to join us. We still haven't got that confirmed 100%. But the gentleman named Chris Owens, who is a collector of Andre the Giant's memorabilia, will be there assisting with that induction. And then Spike Huber, the son-in-law of Dick the Bruiser, who done a lot of work for SICW over the years. He's being inducted into the Hall of Fame. He'll be with us. And I'm really looking forward. Spike was with us year before last, I think it was. And but he's done a lot of work in the business, and his ties with Dick's organization, and he was with WWF for a while. So I'm really excited about that. And then another gentleman we're inducting into, I don't know if a lot of people from the area remember his name, but boy, all you got to do is Google him, and that's the unpredictable Johnny Rods. This guy, he just turned 86 years old. He's still in the gym every day, training the new legends, as I call them, in his gym. and just a prince of a guy. I can't wait to get him in here. And a good friend of his is a great friend of mine, Carmine DeSpirita, who a farmer promoter. He will be there helping induct Johnny Rods into the Hall of Fame. So
That's
it's
cool.
and then after that, we'll have some video package put together for each of them. And then we'll move into the Bruiser Brody Memorial. And I just announced the 11th and 12th entrants today, the LA Hustlers. The way it looks, we'll end up with about 22, 23 contestants in the Battle Royal, which there's some big boys in there, Congo Kong, the Big Texan. These guys are 300 plus pounds, and it's wild. And then, I've announced some other matches on the card. We got a 6-man tag match. I have announced that the Power Paint, the Warlord and Barbarian want to be in action, so they'll be in action. And you never know what's going to happen at an SICW event. I got the Rock and Roll Express going to be there. I'm
very. I was going to say I had a short list of people I wanted to meet, and it's now become a big list. But I can assure you, I am excited to meet the Rock and Rolls. Very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, and then of course the bonus there is Kerry Morton will be with them, because the Koloff tour is. I'm really excited about that. The tour for Ivan Koloff with Nikita, Vladimir, and Neil. I announced Neil Koloff will be in action against our sheriff of SICW, the Big Texan. So I'm really looking forward to that match. And of course, I announced Tommy Wildfire Ritchie, who's going to be there. Him and Dangerous Doug Gilbert will be in action. And they'll be taking on the leader of Devastation Incorporated, their manager, financial advisor, Stephen E., and his number one international bounty hunter, Attila Khan, who was trained by the late great Harley Race. So that's going to be a great tag match. They've had a feud. Him and Tommy Wildfire Rich had a wild street fight down in Southern Illinois last year, and so this is kind of a remake of that. And but there'll be 8-9 matches that evening, and then we'll get it all wrapped up. And I've got to be out of there by midnight, or they charge me another day, and I don't want that. So out there way before midnight. So, but that's kind of what and then to piggyback on that, I think they'll find that the hospitality, as far as the staff, we're there to help people find what they can, and all these legends that come in have always been professionals, and they'll have their photos for sale or their gimmicks, whatever they have. And we just want the fans to come. There's plenty of parking at this hotel. I mean, it's real easy. It's right off of Interstate 64 in Fairview Heights, Illinois. Can't miss it. The St. Clair Square Shopping Mall is right across the interstate from there. If people come in town early, and there's all kinds of restaurants and other shopping places. So I think it's going to be great.
Focusing a little on the Battle Royal, it is a traditional Battle Royal, correct? Where everybody is in the ring all at the same time. It's not like a Rumble style. That's
correct. Yeah. Everybody's in the ring at one time. Now, last year, we ended up with a few extra late entrants. So we had to send them in after a couple guys, because, we have a 16-foot ring, because we primarily use it everywhere. But it's good for our TV tapings. And so when you've got these, you get 20, 23 guys in there, space is kind of limited. But last year, but my booker, I'm probably one of the only promotions out there that I know of that still has an actual booker that runs the operation. And between him and Teddy Long being the matchmaker for this one, it's taken a lot of that off of my plate to where I can concentrate on. I'm still trying to focus on the getting people their flights and their hotel accommodations and all that. So, but my son helps me with a lot of that stuff. And of course, my wife is the spark behind the knock, So, the old saying, happy wife, happy life.
That's right. I try to live by those words. You're absolutely right. We're talking here with Herb Simmons on the Card Subject Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, we are coming to you from the Atomic Sports Cards and Collectibles Studios, and we are powered by Low Pies Pizza. You've mentioned the name a couple times, the greatest wrestler on God's green earth. I never had a chance to meet the man, but give us a couple Harley race stories if you could.
Great guy, Harley. He tough as nails. Ask any wrestler out there. I always say it's a toss up between him and Haku. But I would not. If I had to go into a bar fight somewhere, I want both of them on my side.
Sure.
But Harley was such a great guy. Every time I had him in for personal appearances. One quick story: I had a barbecue business, a little thing of partners and I did, and it was just a small place. We had about 6 picnic tables inside of it. And I had a lot of my collection of wrestling memorabilia on the walls, and I had a television in there to where fans could come in and we were playing these wrestling tapes over and over, and it took their mind off of in case their order was a little late, or we were busy. You got something to sit there and watch, and you're not too worried. So I had made arrangements to have Harley come in and do an autographs signing on a Saturday. And he was a little late getting there. And fans were lined out the door down the street. The police was there having to keep the traffic going because this was Harley Race, the greatest of all times, coming to Cahokia, Illinois. The place was called Mr. Barbecue's Rib Shack. And so he gets there and he's sitting at a picnic table right underneath the television and he's signing autographs. And of course, Harley was a smoker. He had to always smoke. But then he was always, his signature had to be just right. So he never got in a hurry. So that line just kept growing and growing. And I was up behind the counter. And back then I was 500 pounds. I was a big man. And so I'm standing there and I'm watching that. And I'm kind of saying, come on, Harley. The line's all the way out the door, and people's trying to order food and they're wanting an autograph. And I happen to look up to the television. And the match that's playing is Harley Race against Dusty Rhodes. And I go, well, that's pretty neat, because I could see the fans, man, they're focused in on that television too. Well, then it dawns on me, that's the match that Dusty takes the title away from him. And I go, oh crap. This is here's the champ sitting there signing autographs. And he's getting ready to get beat, And so I thought, well, okay, I'm going to take my 500-pound body and it was a small place, like I said, but I'm going to try to sneak behind these other tables and get up behind him and eject that VCR tape out of there. And I managed to get over there and I managed to get my hand up and I'm ready to hit that eject button. And he turns around and he's got that cigarette in his mouth and he says, big boy, if you do that, we're going to have a problem. He knew what the tape was. And he put the marker down and he turned around and he just sit there. And then he started calling the show. He started calling the match. And of course, the fans are clapping and cheering, But I thought, what a guy. Here you're getting the title taken away from you. And but he was a great guy about that. Anytime I called him, as he got older, he fell and actually broke his back, had a fractured back, and I had him booked on a show at a ballpark, minor league ballpark in Sojay, Illinois, and I had him and Baron Von Roschke and Ken Patera, Cowboy Bob Orton. They were all coming in, and I'd called him, and he said, "I'm coming." And I said, "Well, how are you going to make it?" He said, "I'm coming. If they have to lay me down in the bed of my pickup truck, I'm coming." And I said, no, you're not. I'm, he was living in the Lake of the Ozarks then. And I said, that's a 5-6 hour drive. And, Herb, I never miss a show for you. I said, you're missing this one because I could tell on the phone that the guy was in pain. But that's the type of guy he was. If he gave you his word, he was coming somewhere, he was coming. But I said, nope, we'll get by without it just fine. But, I could have easily said, yeah, come on, I want you in here, but no, I I mean, I had all the other guys going to be here, and the sponsor of the show at the ballpark, they knew about, I went and told them, and they said, hey, no problem. We still had Patera, Von Rashi, Orton. And then he kept calling me, I'm going to make it up to you. I'm going to make it up to you. So, but that's the kind of guy Harley was. Great guy.
Sure. I love your.
And I'm honored to have guys like superstar Steve Fender, who's still with me to this day, working in Attila Khan, people like that.
Sure.
Trevor Murdoch was trained by Harley Race. They all worked down there at that WLW in Eldon, Missouri, and then in the Ozarks with him. So a lot of great talent. Harley had a lot to do with.
Seems like such a class act, and I will speak for Nick. I know we both wish we could have met him when he was around.
Yeah. There's so many of those guys that we've lost. And, there for a couple years, I mean, we were losing them at a fast rate. And that's why Sam always told me, you treat the boys right and they'll treat you right. And that's why I think I've been so fortunate when I call these guys. I call a Bill Eadie or Barry Darso from Demolition, who, man, I got to give them kudos being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame after all these years.
Yes.
That's long. That's way overdue. And it's a good time for me because, WrestleMania, and then here they're going to be coming to me. And so I appreciate that. But I was with Bill up in Chillicothe, Ohio a few weeks back. And I mean, just great guys. I mean, so knowledgeable of the business and been through it all. But I think that's why, because, and I'm not bragging, I mean, but I think that by the way, Sam and Larry and then Bruiser Brody, my dear friend, we had such a great relationship, not only in the business, but a personal business. I think that's what's helped me have the reputation I have with these other legends out there. When I call them, they know, one, if we agree to a price, it's going to be there. They're not going to get cheated. They're not going to get the old song and dance. Oh, well, the house was low. I'll catch you next time. We don't do that. Never have done that. And, I mean, back when these guys were working, there were no 401ks, there were no investments for them. They were driving 200, 300, 400 miles from town to town to do shows. They weren't flying. And a lot of them supplement their income on these FanFest and the book signings and stuff like that. So I just appreciate what they do,
And the list of legends that are going to be at this FanFest, the graphic that I used to promote your appearance here, I don't think there's room for anyone else on the graphic. I'm sure you could fit somebody else in. I'm sure you'd find room.
Well, and that's it. I've that's why we've been doing a lot of the individual ones now, because they're still, and I've got my fingers crossed that it doesn't happen. But I got 2 or 3 more that's a possibility. But we're just about filled up to our brink right now, and I think we've got a good variety of a lot of the legends. We've got a couple of the NWA people, Brian Idol. Who else do we have coming with him? Natalia. Natalia's coming. But then we've got the like I said, the Brooklyn Brawler, Doink the Clown. So there's a little bit for everybody. If you can't find your favorite, D'Lo Brown, he's going to be with us. He'll be shaking his head, Carlito. Yeah. Yep. These are all guys, Precious Paul Ellering. And then we've got the family of the LOD, Laurinaitis, bringing the original shoulder pads that fans will be able to try on and get your pictures with them. And
that's cool.
So I mean, the Universal Heartthrob, Austin Idol, another great individual out there. Harvey Whippleman, come on now,
Yes.
Harvey, one of the all-time greats, and you just and then we have the son and widow of Harley Race, Justin and Yvonne, going to be with us. Justin, a great guy, just great people. So I'm honored that they're joining us again this year. It's just Buff the Stuff Bagwell. There's a guy that just is very, very lucky and fortunate to but I was with him up in Indianapolis, and you can never tell that he's went through what he's went through right now. Not only with his life back in the day, but having his leg amputated.
Yeah.
I mean, and then still got the ambition and drive to want to get back in the ring. I mean, it's just, it's amazing. And he's actually coming in town a day early, and I had him in last year. He goes to a rehab center and does a speech that you can hear a mouse crawl across the floor when he's telling his story, his life of how he got on the wrong road. And that place said, hey, we saw your advertising, and we want him to come back in and talk to our clients this year. And does a tremendous job of that. So I really applaud him for what he's doing. He turned his life around and got a beautiful young lady that's working with him, and that's great.
We've had the privilege of meeting Buff a couple times, and it's just been an absolute pleasure every time we've had a chance to speak with him. I'm looking forward to seeing him again for sure.
Oh yeah, it's and like I said, Robert Gibson, he just sent me a promo in today, and that's what these guys do. I have them send me promos, and hey, we're coming. And Ken Resnick, I mean, I know that's a name you know from the AWA days. He just sent me a old school promo advertising the way he used to advertise the matches up there. So that'll be coming out later today probably. But and then Bobby Fulton, great friend of mine. Bruiser Brody brought Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers into work for me many years ago. And another guy who's went through a lot of health issues with his throat cancer. And I was so honored to be invited up there to his show about 3 weeks ago, and he had me do his television commentary for him. And he's already asked me, his 50th anniversary will be next March. And he had called me and said, I want you back. I want you to do it on that. And I said, well, right now, my mother always said, we never know what tomorrow's going to bring. And now it's, you never know what the next minute's going to bring us,
Right. You're right.
Yeah. Well, Herb, we try and keep things right around an hour. We've been talking for 45 minutes, and I can't believe it's been that long. This has flown by.
This has been great.
Before we get you off the hook, I know you've talked about the YouTube channel and your show, your weekly shows. I want to give you a little more time to promote that. And for those who are watching on YouTube or Facebook or listening on audio platforms after the fact, I put the link in our description. So you'll be able to go check out SICW shows, but talk a little bit about the YouTube channel and the show that comes out every week.
Yeah, it's we used to be on a couple of different cable companies, Charter Cable back when they were still around, Spectrum, and they were hassle to work with the YouTube channel platforms and Facebook. You kind of control your own destiny as long as you live by their rules, as you gentlemen know. And we try to do that. We're having fun with it. It's on every Sunday evening, 8 p.m. Central Time. It's nothing fancy. You're not going to see any pyrotechs. We do ringside interviews. You may see a brawl break out every now and then. This Sunday night, we're going to be really focusing on, we have a big show coming up on April the 25th in Columbia, Illinois at the Powerhouse Indoor Soccer Arena. We're really excited about that. It'll be our first time there. But everything is, the roads have been leading up to FanFest for the last couple of months here. And we'll go over a list of the, I've got a guest on tonight, the big Texan I talked about, the sheriff, joined me in studio. We have our own studio that we have set up where we do our recordings. And but then the TV's done in a little community area center. Nothing fancy, like I said, but it works. Dr. Drew Ebenhouse is my voice of SICW. He had the pleasure of learning from the late great Larry Matasek, sat underneath his learning tree many years back, and he's been with me about 14 years now. And I gave him the name of Dr. Drew. And so he does a good job. He's a great researcher, and he gets that energy in the matches, But, the TV, like I said earlier, we tape 4 1-hour shows. Usually we'll tape the following Sunday after a Saturday night house show. I hold the boys over, and we get together at noon, and we're out of there by 3:30. depending on the timing, because TV is a lot different than a house show. When you're filling that time, especially we've got a little TV that we're on in St. Louis called Intrigue Television, and that's a little different than YouTube. You're on TV, you got to go by their time. They got to drop their commercials in, and so you have room for all of that. So that gets my producer gets a little aggravated. Like tonight's episode will be a little bit longer for the YouTube, but we had to shorten it for the Intrigue. But I think that overall it works for exposure for the talent. Like I said, we've got people that join us on Sunday nights from around the world, Australia. Now I am smart enough and been around long enough to know that nobody's jumping on a plane from Australia and flying in here to come and watch a SICW show. But it's exposure for the talent that gets out there and gets their name out there, and I think SICW has got the name recognition around the world.
And that's the beauty of YouTube and social media in general. That's why I love what we do, is because we use our social media to promote the stars who are out on the independents grinding. That's our main thing that Nick and I do every week.
Well, and that's the thing, I talked about Attila Khan. He just took a trip to Japan. He went over there, him and I'm sure you heard of Madman Pondo. They went over there and did a tour and scheduled to go back. And so, it's hard to make this younger talent understand what giving up that 3 or 4 hours on a Sunday afternoon can do for you. It can get you exposure. And like I said, I'm real fortunate the crew that I have really love the old school mentality, and they're all excited about getting to sit there and sit next to a JBL. In fact, I've got one of my guys. He's got a segment that gets put in on our show called Nasty Talk. Big nasty Glenn Williams, and a graduate of the Ace Wrestling Academy, but he is a guy that has took the microphone. He's another one that's got had a rough life, heroin addict, but overcame that. Had been shot once, but got his life turned around. Fell in love with wrestling, and now he's out making his mark in the business. And he's been poking the bear of JBL and wanting to take him on. And he's been punched by Robert Gibson. He's been punched by Buff Bagwell. He's been punched by Bill DeMott, who will be joining us. And Bill DeMott, has trained probably half the guys out there that's working nowadays, Right. But he keeps poking JBL. So Teddy Long and Mac Davis told him on the show, and I said, you better quit poking that bear, because you don't know what you're going to get. You'll feel that big clothesline from JBL,
Oof. Well, Herb, we definitely want to thank you for coming on. This has been an absolute pleasure. And if you're not doing anything at 8 o'clock Central Time, go over to the SICW YouTube page. Check them out. I highly recommend it. And again, I'll speak for Nick. We're very much looking forward to meeting you in person and seeing the show you guys put on in May. So
I'll be real easy to find. I'll be the chicken running around here with my head cut off. Probably.
Yeah, he'll be the busiest guy in the building.
No, I tell you, it's that's the one thing. If you haven't learned now, I love to talk wrestling, and it's great to see the fans that come up that I only get to see through the text messages or here on videos. But I stop and talk to everybody, and because they've all got a story, or they all want to hear something. And with this many legends and even the local talent that we have there, everybody knows this is kind of our mini mania, and it's always great. It's great for the area, and hopefully we'll see what happens. Everybody's already talking about FanFest 5, and I keep shaking my head. Let's get through 4. But I really appreciate you guys having me on, and success with your shows moving on. I mean, you guys are doing it the right way. And if I can ever help you, if you ever want to get some of my local guys on, I'll be more than glad to facilitate that for you.
Absolutely. I am always looking to book anyone I can from across the country. So that would be appreciated. I love it.
Yeah, very good. Okay.
Well, thank you again, Herb. Nick, before we wrap things up, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up in the next week. There's some kind of big show on the national level. I don't know. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, some WrestleMania show, biggest show of the
Oh,
year.
yeah.
Of course, we'll have to break it down for you. We will break it down for you Saturday night following night 1, and then we will break down night 2 and Raw for you happening the Tuesday after. So the biggest wrestling weekend of the year on the main stage is next weekend. Definitely looking forward to it. Yeah, lots of wrestling going on, and we'll be here for it to break it down for you.
Oh, for sure. I'm looking forward to breaking it down. We'll have our good friend Joe the Show Winkle joining us on Saturday. That'll be a lot of fun. Speaking of fun, Nick, I went back and I watched an episode of ours from last year. And I was really debating about whether we were going to pull the trigger on announcing this today or if we're going to wait. But I feel I've got an itchy trigger finger, man. Last year at the Sandra Lee Memorial Car Show, we had the privilege of speaking with the Headbangers. Not only that, but Mosh came back and talked with us for another 20 or so minutes.
Yep,
and
I remember.
that was an honor to have him come back and to speak with them in general. But we talked a lot about his book that was coming up. It is now released. The book is called Beneath the Skirt, and we will be having him appear on our show on May 3rd.
No joke. We did it with Hollywood Jeannie Basone. We did it with Mosh. We're like, you're writing a book. You got to come on the show and talk about it. And absolutely. And true to his word, he will be back. Under the Skirt is the name of the book. It can be found wherever you get your books. And Headbanger Mosh will be here on May 3rd to talk about that book and anything else that's going on in the wrestling world.
I'm super excited. This is going to be a fantastic summer as we head towards it. I'm sure we will talk more about FanFest that we just had Herb Simmons on talking about as we come off of that weekend. Lots going on. I'm excited. We're going to have some fun this summer, Nick.
We are. We're going to have lots of fun, and we had a good one tonight. And if you are thinking about going to the SIW or SICW FanFest in May, I know CZ and I will be there. I know some of our wrestling friends will be there too, but I can't wait for it. There are so many people that are going to be at that show. He talks about variety. Like, there's absolute variety. And that's what's great. Herb's done a great job putting this together. This is the 4th one. Hopefully there's the 5th one, but I can't wait to go down and enjoy the 4th one. And so thankful that Herb was able to come on the show today and tell about it.
100%. What an amazing show. It was great speaking with Herb. I hope we can have him back sometime to talk more wrestling. He's got that old school mentality. I know that's right in your wheelhouse, particularly.
Yes, yeah. I could have listened to him telling stories about Harley race all day, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm glad that we had him on. Glad we were able to talk about SICW, especially wrestling at the Chase, and of course the SICW FanFest 4 coming up here in May.
Yes. And for those of you who are new, be sure to follow us on Facebook, give us a subscribe and a like over on our YouTube page. Check out our entire archive. We've got all our episodes from way back in 2022 when we started. So we appreciate you tuning in tonight. We appreciate you following the show. But that's going to wrap this up of this edition of Card Subject to Change. So thank you so much. A big thank you again to Herb Simmons. We appreciate you coming on. For my tag team partner, Mr. Never Wrong, Nick Bull, I am the Wizard CZ, the only certified wizard in wrestling podcasting, by the way. So we will see you on Saturday following WrestleMania, and then again next Tuesday, recapping everything about the show of shows. Until then, have a great week.